welcome to our lesson, right? So we'll start today's lesson by doing yesterday's home activity, and then we'll definitely move on to our problem solving of fractions. You remember we did that last week Friday, right? And you still had your home activity, but we didn't complete it. So we are trying to complete yesterday's work, which was cubes and square roots. So after doing our cubes and square roots, that's when we'll continue with our problem solving. For the rest of the week, we'll be doing problem solving, and it's going to be so much fun. Tomorrow we'll have our Kahoot game, and don't forget to join my Google Classroom name. Okay. So we did some of the questions yesterday, but we didn't finish them. So today we'll finish everything so that we can move on to our problem solving, right? So let's go to our whiteboard and complete our work, right? So we had this one fraction. Like, guys, you remember home activity, we did some of the questions and we didn't do some of the questions, and some of the questions were similar, same techniques. If you used, like, if the fraction is the same, you can use the same techniques, right? So let's get into it. Thank you. So we had number 7. Our fraction was 1, and then we have 1 of 2 to the power of 2. So guys, you remember when we have a mixed fraction, this is a positive mixed fraction with the power of 2 to the power of 2. And you know when we break it down what it means, right? And you remember when we did our cubes. 2 to the power of 2 is the same as saying 2 multiplied by 2, and you get the very same number. If you have 3 to the power of 2, you must not say 3 multiplied by 2. No, it's 3 to the power of 2, which is 3 multiplied by 3. If you have 3 to the power of 4, then it means multiplying 3 4 times, not saying 3 multiplied by 4, right? Okay, so here let's break our fraction down. But before we do break it down, we must convert our fraction to our improper fraction first. So we'll multiply 2 multiplied by 1 equals to 2. And then 2 plus 1 equals to 3. Right. So let's break it down and do it right here. We'll have 3 as our numerator, and most definitely we do keep our denominator. And then multiply by 3 of second. So in this case, guys, you know when you multiply your fractions, you must simplify. What do you do when you simplify? You must firstly get your highest common factor, and then you can proceed calculating, right? But in this case, we do not have to simplify our fractions because, like, we don't have any highest common factor for 3 and 2. Our highest common factor for 3 and 2 is 1, and 1 won't change anything, right? So let's multiply it the traditional way, the way we are used to, right? So we'll have 3 multiplied by 3, which will give us 9, right? And then we'll say 2 multiplied by 2, which will give us 4. Guys, today is the last day we are doing this kind of topic, because we'll be moving on to problem solving. And when we do our problem solving, you must know these techniques by heart. Because you'll be adding fractions and subtracting fractions and multiplying fractions and dividing fractions. And we did that last week, right? You still remember? Yes, you do. Okay, so now we need to simplify our fractions because it's an improper fraction. So we must convert it to our proper fraction, a mixed fraction, which is a combination of a whole number and a proper fraction. So now let's do it. How many times does 4 goes into 9? It goes 9 divided by 4 basically it will give us 2 and a decimal basically. So what will be the remaining number after our 4 goes into 9? The remaining number will be 1. And then we keep our denominator which is 4. So we are done. Right. So let's move on to the second question. Second question, we had something like -1 of 8 to the power of 2. This is open bracket, close bracket. Right. So here, guys, we have our negative. So it means our fractions are negative. And here it's to the power of 3, not 2. So it means our fractions are negative because we have 3 fractions inside our brackets, right? Yes. So let's break it down. But before we do break it down, we need to convert our mixed fraction to our improper fraction. So let's do it then. We'll have 8 multiplied by 1 plus 1, which is 9. Yes. We'll have 9 of 8 multiply by 9 of 8, and then because they are negative, right? So let's have our negative signs over here. And you know, when you are multiplying your fractions, the negative signs cancel each other, right? And you'll be left with a positive. But if you have 3 negatives, then your answer will be negative because 2 negatives will cancel each other and the other one will be left. So your answer needs to be in negative, right? So now let's calculate then. So when we do calculate, -9 multiplied by -9. Guys, here is to the power of 2. Sorry about that. It's not to the power of 3. It's actually 2. Let me scratch this. It's 2, not 3. Right. So let's multiply then. -9 multiplied by -9. You will have, it will give you positive 81. Right. So now let's calculate -8 multiplied by -8. And your answer will be 64, positive 64. And this fraction right here, it is most definitely our improper fraction. It's not a proper fraction, right? So since it's an improper fraction, we need to convert it. And when we do convert it, we convert it to a mixed fraction. So how many times does 64 goes into 81? It goes only 1 time. And what will be the remaining number after that? The remaining value after our division. So the remaining value will be 17. How did we get 17? It's basically saying 81 minus 64, and you will have your 17. And guys, to verify if your answer is correct or not, you can do this method. You can go backwards. You can say, now you see we have 1 and we have 17 over 64. You can say 1 multiply by 64 multiplied by 1 plus 17, and it must give you this answer, which is our numerator. So when you do it, 64 multiplied by 1 equals to 64 plus 17 equals to 81. So we are correct, right? So let's move on to the next question. So when we do move on to the next question, we have negative, another negative, guys, but this time we have 3 negatives. Another negative, we have -1 and then 2 of third, right? So we'll say multiply 3 multiplied by 1 plus 2, it will give us 3, it will give us 5. So let's do it. 5 over, we keep our denominator, it's negative, remember. 5. So let's multiply then. When you say negative 5 multiply by negative 5 multiply by another negative 5, you will have negative 125 over negative. Okay, let's multiply this one first. Negative 3 multiply by negative 3 multiply by negative 3. You will get negative 27. So guys, I will ask you this in the question. Can you please break this down? Please tell me the mixed fraction of this improper fraction. Mixed fraction, a combination of a whole number and your proper fraction. What is our mixed fraction for this improper fraction when you do convert? I will wait for your comments, guys. And tell me, is it negative or positive when we actually do convert it? Will it be negative or positive? Let's see. Guys, 125 divide by 27. How much do you get? It's 4, right? Okay. Okay, guys. When we actually try to find this out, what do we say? We say negative 125, right? Divide by negative 27. And our answer will be positive. You can try it again in your calculator just to verify. 125, negative 125 divided by negative 27. It gives us a positive number, which is 4, obviously. And then the remaining number will obviously be 17, and we keep our denominator, and then we are correct, right? So let's move on to the next question. But you guys are doing very well, by the way. Exceptionally very well. You guys are doing awesome. So let's do this question. We'll have 1 of 2. This is positive, guys. Plus so this one, we don't need to convert anything because it's not a mixed fraction. Both of them are proper fractions. They are not our mixed fraction, right? So let's do this. 1 of 2 multiply. We are breaking it down right now. We are breaking it down. We can somehow put them in brackets. And 1 multiplied by 1 equals to 1. And then 2 multiplied by 2 is 4 plus 1 multiplied by 1 multiplied by 1. We are doing these fractions. 1 multiplied by 1 multiplied by 1 multiplied by 1 equals to 1. And then 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2 equals to 8. So now we must get since we are adding, we remember when we are subtracting our fraction and we are adding our fractions, we must get our lowest common multiples, right? In order to add our fractions. So our lowest common multiple in this case, what is our lowest common multiple? You can just comment the lowest common multiple for 4 and 8. Lowest common multiple for 4 and 8. Let's see here in the comments. Lowest common multiple for 4 and 8 is our LCM, guys, lowest common multiple. Okay, so our lowest common multiple here, it's 8, guys. Nah, it's 8. Lowest common multiple, it's 8. So only one person was correct. We must find our LCM, lowest common multiples, right? Guys, you can't say 2 because when you are doing your multiples of 8, now we must get our multiples of 4. You must line up your multiples of 4 and your multiples of 8. So let's do it right now. For multiples of 4, we have 4, 8, 4, 8, 12. We can stop it right there. Ne? And the multiples of 8, we have 8, 8, and 16. We can stop it right there. Ne? So our lowest common multiple for 8 and 4. What is our lowest common multiple? It's 8 because here's our 8. It's the lowest, and here's our 8. For the in the multiples of 4, we have 8. Here's our 8, and multiples of 8. 8 is the first number, so that makes our lowest common multiple 8. You must line up your multiples of 4 and also line up your multiples of 8, and then you can see your lowest common multiple, right? So in this case, we have 8. Now, let's say we had 2 this side and 4 this side. You will line up your multiples of 2 and you will line up your multiples of 4, and the lowest common number will be your lowest common multiple. Common, the same number, the number that is the same. Here, the same number, it's 8. The lowest same number, it's 8. Here, on the multiples of 8, the lowest same number, common number, is 8, right? And on 8 here, we didn't move. We didn't move at all. That's the first multiple. And when for the multiples of 4, we moved 2 times. 8 here, we can say 1 time, and here we moved 2 times, which is 1 and 2. Right. And when you say 4 multiplied by 8, you will most definitely not 4 multiplied by 8, 4 multiplied by 2. Why 4 multiplied by 2? Because we moved 2 times. It's 1, 2. Right. So you'll say 4 multiplied by 2, you will get 8. So our lowest common multiple is 8. I hope you guys understand. So let's have a clean slate, because this one I feel like it was a bit complicated for you guys. Okay, so here's our fraction. So our lowest common multiple is 8, right? So how many times did we move from in the multiples of 4? We moved only 2 times. So we'll have 1 multiplied by 2, and we'll have 4 multiplied by 2, plus this one we didn't move at all, but we can say multiply by 1, multiply by 1, right? Okay, so our fraction, the new fractions right now, will have 2 over 8 plus 1 over 8. Now we can add our fractions. So when we do add our fractions, our denominator are the same. So we keep it the very same way, right? So let's do it then. We'll have 2 plus 1. 2 plus 1 equals to 3. This is our final answer. Right. I hope you guys understand. If you do understand now, you can just comment yes so that I can have it here for you that you guys now we are on the same track and you understand how you must get your lowest common multiple. You must line up your multiple of 4 and line up your multiples of 8 and the common number, the lowest common number, the lowest same number. That's your lowest common multiple, right? You saw there when we're doing the multiples of 4. We had 4, 8, 12. And multiples of 8, 8, 16, moving on. And then before, right there, you can see the common number. The common number is 8, the lowest common number, lowest common multiple. It's 8. So that is your lowest common multiple, right? So now let's move on to the next question. I hope this was clear. I hope this was clear. Let's move to the last question. Let's see. Let's move to the last question. The last question we had 1 of third, close bracket, 2 multiply by open bracket, 1 of second, and we had 3 this side. So let's break it down. Since it's not a mixed fraction, we can break it down. We can break this one down because we are not converting anything in this case, right? So obviously we have 1 of third and multiply by 1 over 3 and multiply again. Because we have our multiple sign there, we can just put them in brackets and then here we'll have 1 of 2 multiply. Can close the brackets here. 1 multiplied by 1 is 1 and 3 multiplied by 3. That will give us 9 multiply. 1 multiplied by 1 multiplied by 1, that's 1. And 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2, it will give us 8. Now, when we are doing our multiplication, you remember we simplify. That's the important one. You must get your highest common fraction, the highest number that goes into both numbers, right? The highest common fraction. You see, remember there we did the lowest common multiple, and I know by now you understand it. So when you are multiplying your fractions, you must get your highest common fraction and you must simplify before you can actually have your final answer, right? So now we don't have to simplify anything because there's no highest common fraction for 9 and 1 and for 1 and 8. You see the opposite numbers, right? And the highest common fraction is basically 1, right? But 1 won't change anything. We know that. We know that, guys. So let's do this one. 1 multiplied by 1 is 1. And then we'll have 9 multiplied by 72 by 8. That will be 72, right? Now, okay, let's do the last one. This last one will require us to have our highest common fraction, and we can, and for those who are just joining us, will know the highest common fraction. They will have a better understanding of what a highest common fraction is. So let's do this one, the last one. I promise the last one before we can go to our activity. Multiply by 1 of the second to the power of 2. So let's break it down. When we do break it down, 2 over 3 multiply 2 over 3. We can put this in brackets. We can say multiply 1 of 2 multiply 1 of 2, close bracket. So let's do it then. 2 multiplied by 2 equals to 4. 3 multiplied by 3 equals to 9, right? Multiply 1 multiplied by 1. 1 multiplied by 1 equals to 1, and then we'll have 1 2 multiplied by 2 will be 4, right? So when we are multiplying our fractions, guys, I said we must simplify, and when we do simplify, we must get the highest common fraction, and the highest common fraction must not be higher than the numbers you are already using at the moment. Nah. So let's say we have 2 and 6, 2 and 6 as our fractions, and we must simplify them. Our highest common fraction can't be higher than 6. It must be below 6, right? It must be below 6. It can be 6, but not more than 6. Below 6, 6 or less, right? So here's our fraction then. We need to multiply this fraction. We need to simplify it first before we can multiply this fraction. So we must check the opposite numbers, right? Now we have 9 and 1. 9 and 1, what is the highest common fraction for factor for 9 and 1? It is 1, and 1 won't change anything. So what is our highest common factor for 4 and 4? We see this opposite 4s. What is the highest common factor for both of these numbers, this 4 and 4? And that number must be 4 or below 4. It must not be more than 4. If it's more than 4, then it's not correct. So let's see what is the highest common factor for 4 and 4. Guys, highest common factor for both of these numbers. Guys, before we have our final answer, we must know the highest common factor for 4 and 4. I see you guys are telling me the final answer. I want the highest common factor, not the final answer. Okay, our highest common factor is 4. Right, and when we do simplify, we'll say 4 divided by 4 because our highest common factor is 4, right? It must not be above 4. It's either 4 or less than 4, right? And then we multiply both of these numbers by our highest common factor. So since our highest common factor is 4, we'll divide these 4s by 4, right? And we'll have 4. So 4 divided by 4 equals to what? Equals to 1. And another 4 divided by 4 equals to 1. So our new fraction most definitely will have 1 over 9 multiplied by 1 over 1, right? Because here we did simplify. This was 4 before, and that was 4. So let's multiply them. In this case, we'll say 1 multiplied by 1 equals to 1, and then 9 multiplied by 9 equals to 9. Then we are done. Correct, right? So guys, we are done with fractions, but you can still send your work via Google Classroom. If you did write it down, take a picture and upload it. I will know it's you because you'll be uploading it in your account and I will get to see it. For those who doesn't know or who haven't joined us yet, guys, before the end of the lesson, I will show you our Google Classroom again so that you can join and you can upload your work there, because we're not sure where the schools are opening. So we need to be active, keep our minds busy as possible. And all thanks to Africa Teen Geeks for doing this amazing platform for us, right? So please join our Google Classroom and let's have fun there. We also have chats there. You saw that, right? We can talk and comment and do all those things. So it's a lot of fun. It's WhatsApp mixed with Kahoot and everything in one classroom. So we'll have a lot of fun. So let's go to today's topic. Guys, you can still remember that last week Friday we ended right here, but I will do this together with you guys. Don't worry. So we'll be doing problem solving problems that involve fractions of a whole or a group. Nay. So let's go to number 3. We did few examples, but we will continue for the rest of the week doing problem solving. Right. So let's go to number 3. Number 3, it says Tabo has 500. So since Tabo has 500, he wants to give it to his kids, right? So they say he gives 1/5 of it to his daughter. He gives half, which is 1/2 of the rest of the money to his one son. His other son gets what is left over. The question is, what fraction of his father's money does the second son receive? Right. So when we need to get the fraction of the of the second son, what we need to calculate everything first, how much everyone is getting, before we can have the remaining number. Because in order to get the remaining number, we must know what is the daughter is getting and what is the first son is getting before we can have the amount of our second son, right? Because the second son gets the leftover money. And in order to know our leftover money, we must know first how much the daughter is getting and how much the first son is receiving, right? And we did kind of this example. So let's do it together, guys. So here's Tabo. Tabo has 500 rands, right? 500 rands. So he will give his daughter 2/5 of that money. So we must say 1 multiply by 2/5. And our answer will be, so we'll multiply his money with the fraction of his daughter. So his daughter fraction is 2/5. That's the percent, not the percentage, a section. We can call it a fraction or a section, a bit of money that she is getting from the father, right? So our answer will be 200. That is for the daughter, right? So the daughter will receive 200 and the remaining money will go to the first son. And after the first son receiving his money, the rest of the money will go to the second son. So let's see how much is remaining. The remaining money, so Tabo had 500 and 200 is already gone to his daughter. So the remaining money, most definitely, it's 300. So the remaining money, it's 300. So let's see the second sentence. They say he gives half of the rest of the money to his one son, which is 1/2. So he gives half of the remaining money to his first son. So let's calculate the amount for his first son. So his first son, we no longer using 500 because the money has decreased. The remaining money now is 300, not 500. 300 over 1 multiply by 1/2 equals 2. So when we do this one, we must get half of 300. And half of 300 is, yes, it's 150. So his son, the first son will get 150, right? And he had how much? He had 300. So the first son has already taken 150. So now let's calculate the remaining money. So we'll say 300 minus 150 because the first son already took the 150 and the remaining money will be 150. That's for his last son, which is the second one, right? So the second son right here will get the remaining money. So the question was, what fraction of his father's money does the second son get? So the second son, we don't know his fraction, right? But most definitely we know now he's going to get 150. So now let's do his fraction. Where can we write his fraction? So when we do his fraction, obviously he's getting how much? He's getting 150, right? Not 180, but 150. The son is getting 150 of what? He's getting 150 over how much? The total money was how much? The total was 500. So he's getting 150 over 500, right? So we need to simplify this in order to get our fraction. So basically this is his fraction, but this fraction can definitely be simplified. And in math, it's very important to simplify your answers. It's very important, especially doing fractions. We need to simplify our answers. So let's simplify then. Okay, guys, let me ask you the last question then. Simplify this fraction for me and comment your answers before I can tell you the right answer. Comment your answers. Simplify 150 over 500. Yes, yes. So when we do simplify this one, guys. Perfect. Correct. When we do simplify it, we must get the highest common factor for both numbers, right? So we'll say the answer will be 3. Okay, 3 over 10, right? So we used 50 as our highest common factor. So we said 150 divide by 50, 500 divide by 50, and that gave us 3 over 10. And we can't simplify 3 over 10 over there because it's already our proper fraction. Guys, I'll upload this on your Google Classroom. You can take a look at the questions. The slides are there. Just open the slides and look, please, and look and do the work, right? So that tomorrow you won't be confused. Actually, you must do that every day so that every day you won't be confused. You'll always be on standard. So you can do this home activity for me. You can do number 2. You can do number 2 so that we'll do it tomorrow, but the remaining slides this is all your home activity. And guys, thank you so much for joining us again today. The slides are on Google Classroom. Just enter there. I sent you the pin again, the class code. Enter that code, press join, not create. When you Google Classroom, there will be a section there when you need to join or create. When not just press join, not create. You are not creating a class, you are joining a class, right? Thank you so much for joining me. Tell your friends to join us. And thank you guys so much. I'll see you tomorrow.